to Robot Unicorn, hosted by my parents, Jess and Scott. I hope you enjoyed the episode.
Should I tell the story about this morning, our daughter coming down the stairs?
You can.
That was so cute.
Cute.
I'm not over that yet. So
we're definitely going to have a talk with her about that.
I know, we will. But this morning, I was sitting on the couch with our youngest, and then our other daughter comes down the stairs, like very quiet. And then at the very bottom step, I hear her jump and go, "Kiai," which is like what she says when she does karate, and do like a karate chop, basically. And then she peers around the corner and she's like, "Woof, good. I'm glad it's just you, Mom." And I was like, who did you think was going to be down here? She goes, "I thought there might be bad guys because I thought you guys were still in bed. So I was just going to go see if there was bad guys in the living room." And I was like, "And you were going to karate chop them?" She's like, "Yeah, I know karate." But she's like, "But I'm so glad. I'm so glad it's not bad guys."
Yeah.
And like just looked so relieved, and then like came and snuggled on my lap for like 30 minutes. But it was just the purest thing that she thought
very cute.
She would be able to protect us with her karate, which she is still very new and learning.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was so cute. But we will talk to her about, if you actually think there's a bad guy in the house, maybe wake us up.
Maybe don't try and attack them
be the one
yourself.
to try and attack them. But anyway, and that there won't be a bad guy in our house.
I do appreciate the confidence in her abilities.
She was so confident. Like the way she got down the stairs, it was as if like,
did you hear her coming down the stairs?
I could hear her coming down the stairs very quietly. And then I heard the jump and I saw the chop and heard the kiai. And then I saw her look and just the relief that washed her face. Like she genuinely thought she was about to go fight someone.
That's so sweet and sad.
It was so cute and so sad at the same time. So we did already have some of those conversations, but I just said to her, "I love your confidence and the idea that you want to protect our family, but that's not your job." So it was very cute.
I'm going to be taking her to karate tonight, so maybe I'll have a conversation with her on the way.
On the way to karate, see if she remembers. She was also very deliriously tired. So
yeah, right. Yeah, honestly, maybe it is because of the time change. Yeah. Daylight savings time.
She even said, "I didn't know if it was morning or not." So she was even like, she wasn't even sure if it was like the middle of the night and she was doing this. So even that part was sweet. Like she's like, "I didn't even know if it was morning yet." Because we keep it pretty dark in the mornings, especially upstairs. The windows are all closed and it is dark right now. So anyway, yeah, it was just very cute. But also, obviously, something we're going to talk to her about. Mm-hmm. But just love these little moments like that with kids. It's like, it just reminds you how little they are and, how much they need you. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you have for me today?
Okay. Well, this episode... originally, I was kind of bored of the idea of doing this one. But then the more I did research or was finding the research on it, the more I found it interesting. Okay. And I actually felt the same way with this and the two coming after this. So it's good. Foreshadowing. So today's episode is on teaching our children to be kind, but not getting walked over. Right. Essentially not making them how to not turn our children into people pleasers where they just do things to be nice, but they don't really have a backbone. And I don't know where I saw this or even if I came up with it myself. I don't even know. So, but the idea of children having this compassionate backbone. So they have a backbone. They're strong and resilient. They stand up for what they believe in, but they're also compassionate and kind to others. I kind of like that idea of a compassionate backbone.
Yeah, I like that too.
So we kick so many conversations off with our kids by saying, "Be nice." And honestly, I even find myself saying this to our girls sometimes, like, "Be nice to each other. Why are you doing this?"
Yeah.
But as we'll discuss today, there's a growing body of thought and evidence that this might not be the best advice. So from your perspective, as a professional, what is the potential downside of raising a child who is, above all else, nice?
Yeah, if above all else they're nice, I think the downside is that they don't ask themselves, what do I need in this moment? And how do I protect myself or take care of myself? And it's not that we want to raise a self-centered child. That's different. But if we're just constantly nice, we're constantly putting others' needs over our own, it inevitably will lead to us getting burnt out, exhausted, and it's not actually nice. I like to say that there's a big difference between being kind, like I want to do something for someone else and I want to help them out and I have that compassionate backbone, like you were saying, and being nice, which could just mean like I'm just doing it so that you don't get mad at me and you like me and you're happy with me. And it's actually not for like altruistic reasons. It's really just to keep the peace and keep everybody happy and content. And so that is the major downfall to raising kids who just only think about other people's needs, is that they end up doing stuff not because they want to or because they're genuinely like this kind, compassionate person who cares, but because they are trying to keep everybody else happy. And eventually that does lead to them burning out because it's impossible. You can't go through life keeping everybody happy.
Yeah. And I mean, that might not even be all parents and kids trying to raise children who are kind or nice to others, because I feel like one of the things now, and I mean, this is the same across all generations, I think, but people will say that kids are entitled now. So I feel like there's a lot of people who say, well, we do things for ourselves and we try to make sure we're happy and we have our own needs met and don't care about others. So
do you think there's a balance between, like, let's say our generation, who are now the parents, right?
Yeah.
Who grew up being told, be nice, be nice, be nice, you know, and a lot of punishments and stuff like that. So we kind of all learned how to put other people above ourselves. Like a lot of us.
All know.
A lot, maybe, of parents. But that's continued into parenting. And now you're kind of people pleasing, but with your kids. Like you're having a hard time setting boundaries with your kids. You're having a hard time letting them be disappointed. You feel really guilty all the time. And the child becomes more entitled, let's say. Not that I love that word. We've done a whole episode on that. But it's because you are people pleasing with your child. Like you have a really hard time allowing them to feel disappointment and coaching them through what it actually means to be kind and like assertive at the same time.
I mean, I think sometimes with all areas of life, there's many different shades, it's a spectrum.
Yeah, of course.
Because, I mean, we know plenty of people who are our age that aren't like that, though. So, I don't know. I wouldn't say that all parents our age are trying, like,
maybe
they're
not all our
too.
age, but I wonder if a lot of people who struggle with permissive parenting,
right,
aka giving their kids everything and not really letting them struggle, let's say, and have the kids that might be labeled entitled. I wonder if they were raised to be so nice and kind and they want to break the cycles from how they were raised to be that way, but then it ends up being that.
I mean, sometimes, because I would also say that's a parent now who was raised very strictly could also do the same thing to make sure that it's not.
It could go.
So that's why I just feel like what you're trying to say doesn't make sense to me. It does, because there's too many possibilities that lead to the same.
It's
same results.
One way that leads to that result of many. Yeah, that's fair.
So the research kept highlighting the critical difference between genuine kindness and people pleasing. And people pleasing is often driven by a fear of rejection or a need for external validation, like you were saying. What are some of the early warning signs or behavioral red flags you might see in your practice that a child might be shifting or is showing a pattern of people pleasing over being authentically kind? Mm. I guess, you know what? Let's scratch this question. I feel like, why is it important to even consider a child or consider raising a kind child?
Why does that matter?
Yeah, why does that even matter? Because I feel like, you know what, I'm reading through these questions again and I'm like, I don't feel as though we're getting to the root of why it's even important to raise a child who is kind with boundaries or with a backbone.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think that's the type of question we should all be asking ourselves with our discipline. Like, why does this matter? Why do we want to raise a kind child, right? And how are we going about it? I think we want to raise kind children because all of us, I mean, there's probably two reasons. Like, one of them maybe is a little bit more selfish. Like, we see our children as kind of a reflection of us. And so when our children are out in the world, we do want to see our children treat each other with respect and kindness and be good to others, right? Because that also is a reflection of the way that we parent them. And I think that if most parents were honest with themselves, then they would say that there is a piece of that they want others to see, that their children are kind, right?
Yeah, sure.
But I think more importantly, and like, we shouldn't raise our kids based on what we want other people to think of us, but more importantly for our own children, I think we want to raise them in a way that they can be well adapted to the world around them, and they know how to take care of people, and they know how to love others and be generous and all of those things, because that will help them contribute well to society someday, will help them in their own personal relationships. It will help them have healthier relationships throughout their life. And if they learn how to be kind, that's something that will always be part of who they are, and it will always be meaningful and important in their life, I think, if they learn how to be kind. And so being kind doesn't just mean they're kind to others. It means that they're kind to themselves. It means that they expect kindness from others in the relationships that they have. So overall, I think we want to raise kind kids because it will serve them well throughout their life and be very positive for them. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think partially it does. I would say there's probably a subset of the population that would disagree and say, yeah, it doesn't always pay to be nice, though, or kind, because the real world doesn't allow for you to always be kind.
Right. And that's where we'll talk about the backbone part, right?
Yeah. What I found interesting in the research, though, was the idea of, so again, every episode we will probably bring up the idea of the authoritative parent, the parent who is high in demandingness, but also high in warmth, because what it allows for our children to do is develop themselves into children who believe that they can do things on their own. They have the ability to work through problems, solve problems. They have the ability to relate well with others and actually create meaningful relationships with others. And what I was finding in the research was when it started from that young age, it helps build the positive internal working models so they can see the world more positively in general. And because of that, they can actually, let's say, make more change or have better relationships, are less likely to have mental health issues, all those kinds of things, because of the way they're raised when they're young. And that also leads to them being more kind and compassionate to others and their struggles, and they can empathize.
Yeah, I think it makes total sense. We joke about this or talk about this every episode, that the relationship is really where the kids learn the most from. But I like what you mentioned about it's the lens that they view the world from, right? So when we treat them with kindness, but we also hold our boundaries and we feel comfortable doing that, we teach our children that that is how they can kind of look at the world. I kind of think about kids who grow up in trauma and maybe, or even like really, really harsh parents, and they grow up and they kind of learn to see the world through the lens of their parent as well, right? And so they might learn to see the world as like, oh, everyone's out to get me, or everyone is bad and I'm always a victim, or whatever it is, however they hear their parents talk about the world. But there is something beautiful about imagining your children watching you interpret people with generosity and compassion and do kind things for others. And they kind of learn that, oh, wow, the world is a place where I can be kind to others, and I can see someone saying something that's not very nice, set my boundaries with them, but also interpret their behavior as not necessarily like out to get me, or that they're a horrible person, like they're having a hard time. So I don't know. I think that's really beautiful that we're shaping the worldview really of our children, and also meaningful to us too.
And again, because I think what you're saying sounds sweet and nice and all that, and probably most of the listeners that we have will agree with that, but I think there will be a subset of the population in the world that says, it does not pay to be nice. It does not benefit you to just be nice all the time. You will get walked over.
Yeah.
So I just think the other positive aspects of teaching your child to be kind and being that authoritative parent that's the child's what they call the secure base, so the person they can trust and rely on, it helps that children understand that the world is a place that they can actually trust people in. Everyone is not out to get them. They're worthy of love, all that stuff, but that ends up having positive outcomes later in life for basically every aspect of their life. It's not just that they're kind. It provides a myriad of different benefits to them. So I think that's an important thing that we have to remember. It's not just about...
Yeah, and I'm just talking about kindness because that was kind of what our focus was for that question. But yes, you're absolutely right. Raising kids with that type of parenting where you're warm, you're kind, but you also have the structure and the boundaries. It does a lot more than just raising your kids to be kind to others, right? It helps them in every single aspect of their life. And I agree. It's so funny. As you were talking, I was thinking about this. Someone told me recently, I haven't told you this yet, that Scott hasn't been as skeptical and hasn't been pushing back as hard in recent episodes. So I'm sure they'll appreciate the little pushback there. Because someone said, I think you've got Scott, Scott is so on board that sometimes I feel like he's not asking the same skeptical questions he used to ask. And I was like, I'll have to bring that up to him and see if you can channel your skeptic. And I know you have it because, even if you're not skeptical, you know exactly how skeptics think and talk and the questions that they might have.
It's going to be, I would say, the stereotypical dad, male figure that's likely the most I can get into that mindset because I know a lot of people like that. Mm-hmm. So anyways, that's completely beside the point.
Yeah.
So I want to get into some more practical things here. So a listener of ours had a 7-year-old whose friend always wants to play with their one special toy, and it was causing anxiety in their child. And I can honestly see this sometimes in our middle daughter, where she will do something not because it's right, but because she doesn't want, let's say, her little sister to blow up at her. Mm-hmm. Which, hey, I do also understand, but this seems like a similar situation where it's causing their child to have anxiety and just allow this other kid to play with their special toy. So what are some actual words we can give that child to help them set a boundary kindly but firmly in that moment?
Yes.
Even if it results in some tears.
Yes, I love this. And I think this speaks to your question earlier of what are some red flags that your child's starting to people please, and we have to look at, just to back it up a little bit, you have to look at the temperament of your child as well. So some kids, especially our more sensitive kids, they are going to be more prone to people pleasing. And the reason why our sensitive kids are more prone to people pleasing isn't even necessarily the way we discipline them. Sometimes it is, but other times it's that they are able to understand other people's emotions so deeply and so quickly that they know if they say something or they do something, it might result in the person sitting across from them to be upset or angry or sad. And because our sensitive kids take on those emotions so easily, it makes them more likely to people please because they don't want to make someone else sad or unhappy. And so you come back to the situation, you have the 7-year-old with their special toy that, at least in our house, your special toys, you don't have to share. That's up to you if you want to share it or not. They don't have to share, but they are because they don't want this other child to feel sad, right? And we've had the same situation happen in our house too. And so what they really need to know from the parent, and these kids definitely need our coaching around it, is that it is okay to set this boundary and say, this is my special toy, I don't want to share it. And it's also okay if that other child is sad about it.
Yeah.
it is okay for you as a parent to coach your child through that, especially the ones that you know are going to be more prone to just like trying to keep everybody happy and walking on eggshells around their siblings or their friends. They actually, probably more than any other child, they really need that coaching. And so what I would do, and what I pretty much have done in that situation, is I would go to my child and probably pull them aside or talk to them before a play date. Because in this situation, it was the friend, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would talk to them before the play date. And I might say something like, hey, today so-and-so is going to come over, and I know every time they come over, they always want to play with your special toy. And I know, I can see in your eyes that you don't want them to play with your special toy. Do I have that right? I'll just make sure I have that right. And they'd probably be like, yeah, but like, they're going to be so sad. Like, okay, so we have a few options here. First, we can make sure we keep your special toy in your room, and maybe just don't play in your room. That way, anything that's special you don't want your friend to touch or play with, that stays in your room, and your room is just reserved for just your safe people. So like just us, your siblings, that's it. Or we can bring it out, and that's fine, but we can let them know that like that's your special toy, and you're allowed to not share that toy. Any other toys they can play with, but not that one. How does that feel? And then they might go like, oh, well, they're going to be so sad. You know, they want it. I'd be like, and that's okay. Like, it's okay for them to be sad. That doesn't mean you have to share it. Lots of times you might want to share your toys, but it's okay if they're sad. And what that does, like coaching them through that. And sometimes depending on the child, I might even say like, you can imagine giving their sad, like some kids love a visualization, giving their sad back to them. Like their sad is their emotion, and you don't have to make it better. Like you don't have to fix it.
Does that work for
some
little
kids? Yeah. Some little, like 7.
Like they can understand. Yeah, I guess 7-year-olds.
7. Like we're talking about 7 here, right? So I'd say like 7 to 10, they can almost start, like I sometimes will even say like, imagine this, your friend's emotions coming at you like a ball, right? And you catch the ball and you give it back to them. And like they're allowed to be sad, but you don't have to keep holding their sad. That's not your ball to hold on to, right? Like you can pass it back to them. And sometimes that's helpful, sometimes not. A lot of times it's more helpful for the parent because they need to remember the same kind of message, right? But I would definitely do a lot of coaching around it. And if I was a parent of a child who I knew was more sensitive, and I was starting to see things like that, where you can see a shift in your child's, posture, body language. You can see that they just like give people all their stuff, even if they might not necessarily want to. If you notice that your child's starting to lie to you about little things, and when you kind of get curious about it, you realize that they're lying just because they're worried that you're going to be not happy with whatever the truth is. Mm-hmm. I'd just be really mindful of the way you respond, and responding with sensitivity and kind of coaching them through it. Like even saying like, hey, it's okay. You don't have to lie to me about this because I can handle your feelings. And like, I can handle if you tell me something that you think is going to make me sad or upset. Like, that's okay. Those are my feelings. You don't have to not tell me things because you're worried about how I'm going to react. That's really important for those kids.
Yeah, my concern with that is we can say those words, but then in practice, if they actually start telling us things without lying, and then I still think it's the default, especially if you're a tired parent, to just get upset.
Yeah, totally.
Right. So then is that not...
You have to be able to follow through on it, right?
Yeah.
Because if you say to...
Well, it's hard to remember that potentially too.
But let's say you say to your child, I'm just picturing a situation, this almost happened in our house the other day, but I caught it, where your child, let's say, spills a cup of milk all over the table, and they tell you that they didn't do it. But you're like, come on, like clearly I know you did this, right?
Yeah.
I feel like there's 2 types of way you can respond. Like you can get angry and be like, you're lying to me. How could you lie to me? We don't lie in this family. And get really upset with them. Like, you go clean that up, which, hey, I feel like we've probably been there. Or you can take a moment to try and regulate yourself and be like, why are they lying to me? Well, the main reason a child's probably lying in this situation is because they want to preserve their relationship with you. They want to keep you happy with them. And they can't think through that obviously you're going to figure out that they were the one who spilled the milk, right? And so then you can take a more relationship-centered approach where you're like, hey, I saw that the milk was spilled, and I'm sure that that was you because you were the only one in there who could have spilled the milk. I want you to feel like you can tell me the truth about these things, because telling the truth in our family is really important. And I want us to be able to work through these things together. So let's go clean this up and let's get the milk all cleaned up. You made a mistake, that's fine. But next time I want you to know that you can come to me first. Why are you laughing? Because you're like...
I'm just remembering what happened this weekend. And our middle daughter, who is maybe used to be more like that, where she would lie. I mean, she still has that from time to time too now. Yeah. But this weekend, she literally spilt milk. And before we even knew about it, all we hear her say is, mistakes are good.
And then we're like,
what? What do you mean? She's like, yeah, mistakes are good. And then we see that she spilt milk
on the counter.
As she was trying to pour herself a glass of milk, she spilt a bunch on the counter.
Yeah.
And then
she already had a cloth.
Yeah.
She already was cleaning it up. And then as she was cleaning up, she said, mistakes are good.
So wait.
Like she already had the cloth in her hand. By the time she said mistakes are good and I looked over, she was already like about to clean it.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't catch that part. I thought she had, I heard it and I was like, what? Looking over and I thought she had just spilt it.
No, she had already had the cloth in her hand by the time she said that.
I guess she spilt it right by the cloth drawer anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But, you know, it's so funny is like the difference between her, who now knows, like...
mistakes are good.
If you make a mistake, you're still going to be held, and maybe this goes to what we're talking about too, you're still going to be held accountable.
Yeah.
Like we're going to be kind to you, but we're still going to be firm. Like you still have to clean up your milk that you spilled, right? But we're not going to get furious at you for making a mistake. Like that's just human. And it's so funny because just the day before, our younger daughter had lied to me about spilling. Mm-hmm. Right? And I had to go through pretty much the same script I just said with her so that she knew it wasn't mad, but we're on the same team and we had to clean it up together and we did. And then the next day that happens. And I'm like, this is the progress that we want to be seeing, right? And that is...
a 2-year age difference.
A 2-year age difference. Yep. And that's modeling being kind.
It's pretty funny.
But firm. And that's what we want our kids to do, right? Like the milk is such a good example of like, we're kind, mistakes are okay, they're human, but we're still firm. You still have to like fix your mistake, right? You still have to clean up after yourself. And that like to your real world question, that is the balance of like just being kind or just being firm. Like kids need both.
So you did mention role playing, which I had something in here about that. And it was actually on the research of assertiveness training specifically. It often mentions role-playing as a key strategy for building skills.
Yeah.
Which for some kids is easier than others. I also think that this can be... role-playing specifically can sometimes be awkward for people, for families.
What,
I'm not going to name any names.
Yeah, not to name names.
Don't name names, Jess. Seriously.
For you? Okay.
It's really rude.
You know I live for a role play.
I know you do, so it's not awkward for you. How can parents initiate role-playing scenarios at home that feel natural and fun rather than like a weird corporate training exercise? Because that's how they feel to me.
So now I feel like we have to take it back a little bit because we've been talking a lot about kindness, right? And how we want our kids to be kind.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about the firmness or the assertiveness. But now I think we're going more into the assertiveness territory, right?
I mean, it's kind of both, but yeah.
We're kind of bringing in how you can stay kind and be assertive.
I would argue that they're two kind of separate skills that you have.
Yes. But they go together. Like, you can be assertive and angry, right? But we're going to be kind and assertive.
Yeah.
And that's where the corporate training comes in because, so many people in the workplace, even I, as a boss and you too, we've had to learn how to be assertive in a kind way because a lot of us are very good at being kind or very good at being assertive. I feel like you and I were kind of on both ends. Like you were very good at being assertive and I was very good at being kind. But sometimes we would struggle to blend them both together, right? And each in our unique ways.
Right.
So when we're doing this with our children, I'm thinking of an example like, let's say your child has a friend struggle at school and they want to talk to that friend about what happened. It's not bullying, it's just a struggle. And so you take on almost that corporate structure at home where you're like, okay, let's talk through what you're going to do and how you're going to say it, right? And we want to keep in mind that you want to be kind to your friend. Like you still love this friend. You still care for them. Maybe they said something that hurt your feelings or whatever, but you also want to be assertive and clear about what you're trying to say. And then I might say to our daughter, let's say if she was having that struggle with a friend, and we have said this, let's just play it out. Let's pretend I'll be so-and-so, you be this person. Let's pretend we're on the playground together.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have joined in on some
You've
of those.
joined in on those. I feel like ever since she was in kindergarten, that's what we do. She comes home with a friend struggle, which, you know, they start early on because you have all these kids with immature brains being friends with each other. There's always going to be a friendship struggle. But you'd say, I'll be, or even sometimes to the kids, I'll be like, I'll be you, so that I can model to them how they might have the conversation. You be your friend, because they know what their friend would say, and let's work it out. And then we'll switch roles.
Yep. I think we've done it where I play the friend and you play, let's say, our daughter. And then I do the very dramatic, like I think of Michael Scott in the one episode where he of
The Office,
where he wants to pretend like he's getting fired.
Yes.
And then he just goes
well, I mean, that's
crazy.
even better
and then the kids think it's funny and everything too. And
your parents, imagine being a kid and your parents are role playing out your friend struggle, but like in a respectful way, not teasing you, not like making you feel insecure, but being like, hey, here's one way you could respond. Yeah. But I even think about myself, like the times I've felt most empowered to have the most difficult conversations, I have practiced having those conversations ahead of time, right? We've practiced it. Even you and I have like gone through, okay, well, what would you say? And then what would you say now? That kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And it just makes you feel prepared to have hard conversations. And so I do think that we can coach our kids through that too.
Yeah, for sure.
Can I ask you a question?
Of course. When
we say assertive, because we're talking about being kind and being assertive, what does assertive mean to you?
Being clear in how you actually feel. It's, I think, often confused with aggressive versus assertive. In the way I view it is you're just being clear. This is how I feel. This is what I think about this situation. Or, yeah, I don't know. That's more how I think assertive is. And then aggressive is if you just start getting angry or you're condescending or you're doing any of those things.
Yeah. So can you give us an example of a time when you've coached our kids to be kind and assertive? Or when you yourself have had to be kind and assertive?
I don't like role playing, so no.
You have to role play. Just give an example of a time
That's
that you've done
me being
it.
Assertive.
Yeah.
Good question. Can I think of any? Not at the moment, but I know I have had lots of conversations about that. Probably with our oldest daughter and some friendship struggles or issues. I mean, for whatever reason, this year it feels like there's less, but let's say last year there were maybe a few more, and I would help her through some of the challenges she was having with kids who weren't necessarily being nice to her, and just helping her just speak her mind a little bit more, speak up.
I think about it even in terms of our own children in our house. Let's say I was coaching the girls through this on the weekend because they're all fighting over the same Barbies that they wanted to play with. And one of them was yelling at her sisters, being like, you can't play, you can't be in my room, you're not allowed to be here. And it was assertive, but it wasn't kind, right? And it didn't have a kind tone of voice whatsoever. And then her sisters were very sad and upset, and they didn't know I could hear this whole thing. So then the one sister goes, well, then I'm telling mom, and I'm going to tell her that you were the meanest ever, and blah, 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 blah. Like, she starts going on. And then the other sister goes, well, then I'm going to tell mom, and I'm going to tell her. Like, and then it just started getting like a bit critical of each other. Like, you always say that. And it was getting mean. So then I came in, but I wanted to first I always try and see if they can work it out. But it was clear they were not going to work that one out.
Where was I for this?
Where were you? Oh, it was on Friday. You were working. And the kids were off school.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so anyway, they were all exploding at each other. So then I walked in, and I actually had this conversation with them about, I love that you girls are standing up for each other. I think that's really good. Or standing up for yourselves, sorry. And speaking your mind, I think that's great. But the way you're doing it is hurting each other's feelings. Like, look, each of you are crying. That is not the way that you want to talk to your siblings.
Yeah.
And I will always say, I know you all love each other very, very, very much, right? It might not always feel like it, but you do. And so we do want to speak to each other with kindness and love. but you can still be assertive, right?
Yeah.
So then I had each person, I said, let's try it again. I had each kid try again with some coaching of how they could express. And again, that's another way you can coach your kids through it. It's like, you can still stand up for yourself and say, you can't play with my Barbies. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can't do that and tear someone you love down at the same time. So then we all said it again. There was some repair, and then we decided it was best to just play it by ourselves for a little bit, which was fine. But those are the moments, I think, that really shape how your child learns how to deal with conflict. It's not just be nice to your sister. It's, yes, speak your need, but do it in a way that still shows respect and kindness.
Yeah, one thing that I read on kindness versus people pleasing that I thought was interesting was that real kindness comes from an emotional abundance. So you give it freely without needing anything back. You don't need to be paid back for it. And basically your cup is full. Versus people pleasing, it comes out of a need of the validation or needing others to tell you you're okay.
Yeah.
And essentially giving them an empty cup and hoping someone will fill it for you if you're compliant enough or nice enough.
I love that. Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought that was a nice comparison between the two. And for like the kids in this situation, I mean, they weren't people pleasing in that situation, but then you have to think about it in terms of the real kindness. Like it's okay to stand up for yourself, but you still.
I think what you're trying to say is it's okay to stand up for yourself, because I think it can be so easy, especially when I talk about body safety, sometimes this comes up. Like, it can be so easy to just be like, yeah, teach your child to say, stop, don't touch me, or stop, I don't want you to hug me, or whatever. And those are important. It's good to teach them to be assertive. And like, let's say they're saying it to their 80-year-old grandma who's very loving and just wants to give them a hug. We can also teach them how to do it in a way that's respectful to others. I think it's okay to teach your kids how to respect others. Mostly they'll learn that through the way that you talk to other people and the way that you model that to them.
Yeah.
But sometimes I will say to the kids, try again. Like, try saying that to me again in a more respectful way, or try saying that to your sister again in a more respectful way. And I think that's what you're trying to get at, is that it doesn't have to be people pleasing or being harsh and aggressive all the time, right? We can stand up for ourselves, but still be respectful and kind at the same time.
Well, and there's also, I think, this gender dynamic here too.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real. And the studies I was looking at also suggested that pro-social behavior, so being nice, kind, whatever, focusing on the relationship, but not necessarily in a healthy way, is often stereotyped as a female trait, and girls can be socially penalized for being assertive, while boys might be discouraged from being openly empathetic or kind or yeah. How can we as parents then consciously push back against these ingrained gender stereotypes for both our sons and daughters? Because let's say we only have daughters, but yeah, I would like for them to be assertive and speak their mind while being kind, obviously, too. But I think it should be the same kind of both ways.
It's almost easier for us to be like we almost have to coach our kids to be more assertive a lot of the time, right? Unless it's like with their siblings, of course. Because as little girls, being kind is very much celebrated and is, more of an expectation almost of them. Whereas for little boys, I see this because I see a lot of boys in my practice that their aggressive behavior for a time has almost just been passed off as like, well, they're just a boy, right? They're just a little boy. Yeah. And so it's almost like, okay.
What's seen as acceptable, I think, to be assertive and aggressive at times.
Right. Both are okay.
Yeah.
Whereas they might not be trained as much to also be respectful and kind. Because their aggressive is a little bit more socially seen as appropriate, right? So I do think that it's very important, if we're raising boys, and for everyone who's raising a boy, to also teach them the kindness as well, right? Let them be assertive. That's important. Teach them how to be assertive, but make sure that you're also doing those role plays where you're teaching them how to be kind and how to be respectful.
The way I see it, assertiveness and kindness are both positive traits that should can and should be taught. It's not like they're necessarily, you're born with either one. I think you can be born maybe potentially with higher amounts of either one, but both can be taught.
Yeah.
And both are important.
Yeah. And I think what's celebrated socially becomes more of what we do unless you have the parent who's kind of coaching you through it, right? And so I think of the little boys in my practice, like, and so many of the amazing parents I work with who are raising these boys who do say things like, try again to them, right? Like, hey, totally fine for you to tell your brother this and this, but I need you to say it again in a respectful way. And more importantly, modeling it, being that example for them, right? So like being the example of the dad who's kind and respectful and assertive, like can stand up for himself and the family.
Yeah.
Those are the really key things.
I think a core fear for parents is that if they teach their child to say no and prioritize their own needs, that their child will become selfish or unkind or entitled, like we were saying before. So what would you say to a parent who's holding back from teaching, let's say, boundaries because of that fear?
Yeah. And I think, again, that goes back to the balance, right? Where you do want to teach your child how to stand up for themselves. And you also want to teach your child and show your child what it means to be kind. So I think the biggest thing is like we can focus a lot on like what we specifically teach our kids, but they have to see it modeled through us. That will be their biggest guide, right, in life. And so if you don't want your child to be entitled and you want your child to have generosity and to care about others and to be the person who, you know, holds the door open for someone else and lets them go through it, they have to see that through the way that you act first. And they will follow your lead most of the time, right? So, but that comes down to people pleasing too. Like for me, a lot of my people pleasing tendencies really came to a light when I became a parent and started watching my kids get older and being like, do I want them to do what I'm doing, which is to make everyone else so happy and try to please everybody else to the point where when I get home, I'm so burnt out and exhausted, I have absolutely nothing left to give the people who matter the most to me in my life, who I know will love me no matter what state I'm in. Yeah. Right? So we need to look at ourselves, and same for the like being assertive. If you're not also being kind, if you're really good at being assertive all the time and you're telling your kids boundaries and you're being super clear about your expectations, but you're doing that through yelling or being harsh, soon enough, your child's going to be yelling at you and going to start being harsh with people, and they're going to start like saying the same words that you're saying to them, just to their friends and their peers, right? So we really need to be the model on both ends that we want our children to look up to.
Yeah. I mean, that is the case on every episode, through every course. It's really about modeling.
It's the foundation of everything that we teach.
That is truly how they learn. And that's backed up by attachment science, developmental psychology.
Everything.
Yeah. There's lots of studies that have been done on the fact that that is how it works.
And so, like, I know we're wrapping up, but I would say on a very much deeper note for this episode is to ask yourself as the parent, how are you both kind and assertive? And are you? Or do you fall more in one category or more the other, right? Like I know you and I, this has been a journey for us over the course of our parenting where I've had to learn how to be more assertive, and it's helped our marriage like a crazy amount, where I don't feel like I have to not tell you things, or like, you know, your favorite, the shit sandwich, like try and pile all sorts of compliments and then be like, and Scott, if you could do this for me, and then 10 more compliments after, right? Yeah. I've learned how to just say, hey, Scott, blah, blah, blah. This is what I need, right? And same for you. Not that you were ever mean, but sometimes like you would just be very clear and assertive, and it would be done in a way that would hurt my feelings or would make me feel bad about myself, right? So you've had to also learn how to do that with like a warmth in your voice, or, you know, more of like a gentleness to it. And it's been a process for us. But as we've figured that out as parents, our kids have seen it. Yep. And they have also become, for the most part, quite assertive and kind.
Yeah.
Both.
They're quite good at it, honestly. So it's kind of fun to see.
We hear from a lot of people like, man, your kids are confident. Like they just say what they feel or whatever, but not in a mean way. Like, especially our oldest is very good at this, like better than both of us. She's very good at it.
Well, early on, yeah, she's definitely gotten better at that. And I think there's no baggage for her to kind of take along with. She
doesn't concern herself with, oh, will they like me if I say this or what? She just says it.
Yep.
And we can learn a lot from that too.
Well, I think there's a dependability that people can rely on you to just tell them how you're feeling and not worry that you think one thing but say something totally different.
Yeah. I think that's been my why, because like I said, and we've talked about, becoming kind and assertive as an adult is a process, and it actually takes a lot of practice, especially if you're like me and you were more on the people pleaser side. It takes a lot of practice to learn how to state what you're actually feeling. And like the soccer ball kind of thing where I've said, like, you have to almost imagine handing the person's emotions back to them.
Yeah.
But for me, my biggest motivator was, I don't want my kids to feel the weight of the world and feel everyone's emotions in every decision that they make. Like, it's too much. And I know that they can still be caring without carrying that weight. So that helped me change.
And a part of that may just be
my temperament,
sensitivity, temperament. Yeah. So,
but yeah, I do think that is just my temperament.
Yeah. Okay. So if our listeners, the person listening, could take away one guiding principle or commit to one small action this week to help their child build this compassionate backbone, what would you want it to be?
I mean, I think I'm going to bring it back to the modeling. That's been the biggest piece. In a moment where you would catch yourself either being very assertive and not kind, or very kind and not assertive, ask yourself, how can I be both in this situation? And just hold yourself responsible and see if you can find little glimmers of like times where you're being assertive and kind. And then you can always tell your child the story of it. So for me, I'll give one example because I think this is going to come out around the holidays. It would be like holiday boundaries, right? So I'm thinking about all the parents this time of year who are probably thinking about, oh, I don't want to go to great aunt whatever's Christmas party. It's like the 7th Christmas party this week or holiday party. I don't want to do it, but we would hate to make her upset with us. So we're going to all go, and you're modeling this to your kids and you're telling your kids how bad you don't want to go. And then you're showing them that you do it anyway, right? Whereas maybe you can be more kind and assertive, be like, we're going to go for an hour. It's important for us to show up for our family. That matters to us. And we do want to protect our time with you guys. And we know this time of year is so busy. So after an hour, we're going to go home and we'll have some quality family time.
Yeah.
Right. It's a great way to model being kind and being assertive.
Nice. And I would say, this is going to come as a shock to many, but role-playing does help.
Oh, I knew it.
And you know what? Maybe let's cut that out.
Make that a reel.
Jordan.
Make that a reel.
Cut that shit out.
You have to admit, we do a lot of role play.
We do as much as, maybe I should rephrase. I don't love doing role-playing on the podcast, where it's just the two of us sitting in our studio talking back and forth. There is definitely a ton of value in doing it with your child if they're having a struggle with a friend or something like that, or you want to try and come up with multiple resolutions to an issue, or let's say even between us, if you've had to have conversations that were going to be challenging, I would kind of be the opposite side of it and come up with, here are all the possible avenues of what the person might say in this situation.
Well, I will say, I think that's also why this podcast works so well, is I've learned how to be assertive. So even if you push back on me, and it's something I feel very firmly about, I'm not necessarily like, oh, it's okay, Scott. Like, I don't want to make you upset. Like, I wouldn't want to really tell you how I feel if it makes you sad, right? Like, we can actually have so much more valuable conversations because this is how we talk to each other in our relationship with kindness, but we're also clear. And I feel like that's even just helpful communication for your relationship, is to be able to have those two things.
So what I'm hearing, what you're saying is that I'm doing a really good job pushing your buttons a little bit, but for you to learn how to push back a little bit. Push back
assertively. And I've also taught you how to
You're welcome.
How to be kind. So, but that's a podcast for another day.
Okay, well, I think this was good. I was trying to keep it short, but I failed.
Yeah, you failed.
Thank you so much for listening. It's, wow, it was quite something today.
It was quite something. Hopefully you took something away from this conversation. I know I did. And
really,
well, I love this topic. I think it's missing. We teach our kids to be kind, like kind kids. Like you just see it everywhere. Kind, like on t-shirts and on like, be kind. It's like the one thing we always say, but we're not like, be assertive today. Say what you really feel. So I don't know.
Yeah, without hurting people, without deliberately trying to hurt someone.
Kindness,
Yep.
Think of a few options of, this is what I always coach our daughters, think of a few different things you could say and then choose the one that you think is the most kind and like clear. But, we don't say that. We say be kind. So I think that this episode is really important and I'm excited for people to hear it.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right.
Thank you so much for listening. We will see you next week.
Hey, thank you so much for being here and listening to this episode today. It means the world to us to have you here. If this conversation was helpful for you, it would mean a lot if you could like and subscribe. That just shows us if the conversation is meaningful and helpful and helps it get out to more people. Also, I just wanted to let you know that every week we have a new episode drop. And if you want to be notified when that happens, just hit the little bell icon. Again, thank you so much for being here and we will talk to you again next week.